This DVD is brought to you by Anubis Food Market. Food so good, you can eat it.
Where customers are free to experience quality and service.
I, Steph, had to choose low prices without fear of coercion.
I rest easier knowing that Anubis Markets are a division of Osiris Foods.
Food so good, you can eat it.
When we first heard the rumors that Warner Brothers was about to make a cartoon show called Freakazoid, the buzz was everywhere. Everybody wanted it.
To my knowledge, Freakazoid is the only animated TV series to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And it really had a great shot at it.
Normadeus paved the way for She's the Sheriff that came some years later. And I think it just set a ground of excellence that was only matched then.
It got me to clean my Jeep Cherokee. I cleaned it, I remember I detailed it, I got the armorel, and I armoreled everything. And that's pretty big.
That's just for starters, but let's leave it there. The tradition continues. The seeds have been planted.
I'm the network censor, and I object to the previous scene. It's too scary. Change it now.
We kind of knew we were coming back, but we were the last one told that we were coming back. Paul and I are sitting around our office singing all the songs we know and, waiting for some official word. And then, when we found out that we were picked up, there were no crews left. There were no artists. We were captains with an empty barracks.
It'd been a fairly tight budget the first season, so by the time we got the word that we were being renewed, rations were low. So we could now replenish our supplies, go buy blankets and medicines and things like that. So we were very happy that the show was picked up. I remember the night that we got the word, we all went out and had a delicious scrambled egg dinner.
Gene McCurdy took John McCann and I to a smokehouse in Burbank and tried to convince us to be producers on the second season. And we were like, well, we'd rather write and have someone else be responsible for telling people what to do. And she said, well, if you don't do that, we probably won't do it. So we're like, okay, we can do this. Then we had a meeting at Amblin to talk about all the different shows that Steven was doing, Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs and stuff. And we sat at a table, and that's where John and I found out we were gonna do half hours. They just said, oh, and you're doing half hours? And we're like, whoa, well, really? Okay, that's okay. Great.
A half-hour episode seemed to work better for Freakazoid because the approach, at least this is how I was approaching it, was that we were playing this thing as if it was a real superhero.
Hi, guys. What a surprise.
How come you fired us off the show?
Didn't you guys get a letter from the producers?
I never got any letter.
We knew we weren't going to use some of the smaller characters anymore because they were sort of difficult to place, like the Huntsman and stuff.
If you do like Freakazoid's conversational Norwegian and Moron and a Huntsman and a short Freakazoid Loeb episode, you got 4 pieces of film coming back from overseas. And apparently in the accounting of post-production, it was much more expensive to edit all those and put them all together than it was just to take a half-hour episode and do that.
We interrupt this DVD for an important message. I'm a former Undersecretary of the Air Force. Who would have guessed? Puffery, perhaps, but to be a bureaucrat and a voiceover announcer in one lifetime is more than most can say. Now, back to our DVD.
One of the big changes in the second season was that Freakazoid's butler, Ingmar, left the series. Very talented fellow. He just would not study his script, his cues. He would not study his lines. He didn't know his lines. And the weird thing is, he was mute, too.
I think I might have come up with something interesting. Muffins made entirely of dillweed.
So?
Must you pounce on all my ideas?
We brought in a new manservant for Freakazoid, played by Jonathan Harris, and proved to be a very successful recasting.
John and I have a very strange love of weird things, and we really liked Lost in Space. So for the first season, we're like, if we get a second season, we want to try to get Jonathan Harris, who's Dr. Smith. So I remember John and I wrote this entire letter. And it was like as if we were writing to the president. It was like, "Dear Mr. Harris, we love Lost in Space, but we love more that you are you." It was like 15 pages of just words. And they sent it off, and it turns out Jonathan Harris, he would show up to the opening of a post office. But it turned out to be the best movie ever made. He was the most fun.
We told him up front, we want you to kind of do as much Dr. Smith stuff as you can, and we're going to ask you to scream a great deal. And he was down with it. He was, you know, he'd worked on that for years. His throat was like cured leather.
We would tell him to scream. Was that scream good? I could do it again. Higher, much higher. And it was great. We love Jonathan Harris. And we miss him terribly that he's gone.
Why do I have to learn to move things with my mind?
Strength and speed will only take you so far, lad.
It got me a second season.
You can't count on that! Networks are fickle! They can drop you like a man with big oak fingers!
I remember the day we learned there wouldn't be a third season of Freakazoid. It was the day the laughter stopped. It was the day they decided to move Freakazoid to 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, along with the ad campaign, Big Kids Go First.
Even burglars aren't up that early. And then they kept shifting the time around. It's like they gave a party, someone invites you to a party, say, "Hey, come on over," and they keep changing the time that you're supposed to show up at. You kind of get the point you're not really wanted anymore.
People would pass us in the hallway and look at John and I and go, "Hi, great, Freakazoid, man. Is that going good for you?" Okay. And we would start thinking about, you know, the writing was on the wall, in the bathroom. You'd be in the bathroom, Freakazoid is going to get canceled.
Oh. Hate to go through it again. I remember I was at my sprawling mansion in Sherman Oaks. I called in my 5 little bright-eyed children. I said, "You know, kids, I just got some bad news today. I'm afraid we're going to be selling your toys, and we'll be moving to the car for a while." Well, gosh, they were pretty game about it. They held back the tears until at least I left the room. But by gosh, we're all fine today, and new chances abound. So let's all get behind America once again.
We did have plans for Normadeus before we found out we were canceled.
I had heard that Gene McCurdy had a bet with other executives as to who could get the most obscure guest into an animated series, and she lost. I think CBS got Noam Chomsky into an episode of Santa Pagito.
Gene McCurdy, who was the president of the division at the time, we would always laugh about on Saturdays. She would watch This Old House, I'd watch This Old House, and I always thought if I ever went into battle, the #1 guy I'd want to take is Norm Abram, because he'd go, "Well, what I can do, I'll put up a stud, and then the Viet Cong can't get through, and whatever." And I thought, that's the guy I want.
Secure the cleat to the top with screws counterboard slightly so they stay hidden.
Secure cleat to top.
Paul had this big piece of wood that he wanted to have signed, and it was the only way that he could get it signed. So we base a whole episode of Freakazoid on Norm Abram. It also had something to do with, I think it was to prove to the world that a Jewish guy could use power tools.
So Gene, as it turns out, went to a meeting in New York of people that meet in New York. I don't know what it was, but she ran into Norm Abrams. And she's a very gregarious, nice person. She went up to him and she said, "I'm Gene McCurdy. I'm president of Warner Bros. Animation. Would you do our show?" And he was like, yeah, all right. And so she came back. She said, "Oh my gosh, I got Norm Abram to come to the show." And we're like, "Well, that's great. We don't have an episode yet." But she goes, "Well, it's all worked out and we're going to fly him out." So I think John and I kicked it around and we said, okay, the episode is going to be This Old Freakalair. So Norm Abram comes over and he's going to decorate, redo the Freakalair. Well, the problem is that I started to write This Old Freakalair and it was like, oh, this is boring. The script went nowhere. So I used to listen to music as I wrote. So I was listening to Normadeus. It was the Requiem Mass. And all of a sudden, I have a week to finish this thing. And I go, oh my gosh, Norm Abram is Mozart, and the Loeb is Salieri, and then I'm like, oh yes, okay. And then I just started writing, and then it took like four days.
Norm Abram!
We all showed up to the recording session, and there was Norm Abrams sitting by the front door. I guess he thought in case things got hairy, he could run. And he was sitting there reading the script, wearing a plaid shirt, and he was very unassuming. And I think we all went up and were like, you know, and first of all, Norm Abram, I'm like, Norm Abram! But he's like, hello, I've read the script and I enjoy it a lot. Let's go do this. I'm okay, come on in. And we did it, and it was great.
Cosgrove, he's a normal, regular guy just like everyone.
Norm Abram! I'm touching Norm Abram! I'm hugging Norm Abram!
He was very gracious. He put up with us, you know, because he's like a serious wood kind of guy. And, you know, we're just kind of like, you know, insane cartoon people.
We hardly gave him any line readings except one, which was, you're an evil man, Loeb. And I think we did a lot, because we're like, Norm, you're mad. He goes, you're an evil man. He's like, you're really mad. You're an evil man. No, you are really mad. You're an evil man!
You're an evil man.
You're too kind.
So that was it.
I think he approached it the same way he would construct a miter joint. You know, if done properly, no exposed grains will be visible.
And of course, let's not forget my buddy Cosgrove, my mentor, Roddy McStew, my manservant, Professor Jones, my girlfriend, Steph, my mom, dad, jerky brother, Duncan, my cat, Mr. Chubbikins, our executive producer, Steven Spielberg.
In Normadeus, we have like 10,000 characters show up that have nothing to do with the episode, but here they come in and start singing and crying, and, you know, it's a pretty sad ending, really.
It was jammed. It was the biggest one since, well, Island of Dr. Mystico was pretty big. That had most of them, but I think this had pretty much all the characters in there.
The booth was about 4x4, so you had to have people that really liked each other a lot. It was always fun to have the ensemble cast thing because you had a lot of energy between the actors.
Well, there were a lot of people there, a lot of actors. You know, some actors are rather bohemian, and so there was a certain natural odor pervading to the room.
A Freakazoid session, everyone came early for the Baroni's pizza, so they would all come and they would all hang out. And sometimes you'd go in and go, oh my God, Jonathan Harris, Ed Asner, Ricardo Montalban, they're all in a room eating pizza together. And so then Norm came in, and I think he was sitting right next to Ricardo Montalban. So Ricardo would go, that's very good. I like the way you say that. And I go, oh, thank you. I enjoy your work as well.
We set up a stand microphone for the big song at the end, and so there are like about 3 or 4 people around each mic, belting away, and about 5 mics. Must have been 20-something people, maybe.
We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Why we'll meet again? Because when I wrote it, I knew that was it. And it was so funny, when I sort of came to the end of that episode and I was writing it, I remember Gene McCurdy needed to see it that Monday, because we had to get it to Norm's agent and we had to get things done. So I was working at Warner Brothers on a Saturday night trying to get the thing done, and I must have been sleepy or something, because when it came to that part where the show's over, I thought, wow, let's do We'll Meet Again.
Well, we all started singing. First we sang together, and then we all had to do individual parts. Now some just sang 4 bars, some 8, some 12, some 36, some were rather excessive. I knew when I began to sing, as I looked around the room, that I was certain to be buried deeply in the mix. All you'd hear of my part is
I got a little teary-eyed. I was like, oh, this is really sad. And I remember writing all the different lines for that and separating it out and just feeling, you know, sort of sad that this is where we're gonna do it. But then I knew that this is what we should do. And it's from Dr. Strangelove, which is the best ending ever of all time. So I figured if we could go out like that, let's do that.
We interrupt this DVD for a section about me, your announcer, Joe Leahy. A dog with a cluck in its stomach. in its belly, in its abdominal section. It's a cute little fella, sort of like a little beagle basset hound mix. They are a little yappy. They do smell sometimes, but they're awfully cute. See that? You never have every... Forget it. I'm not going to do this. It's just... Really, some shred of dignity left. Shall we continue with the program? Well, let's just put this out of the way. It's right here.
Within the silence of yourself, lad, reach out with your mind and raise up the brick.
Ow! It was so much fun because you'd go to these sessions, you'd laugh, we'd go down to editing and, work with Al Breitenbach, our editor, and, Richard Stone, and doing the music. We'd have Baroni's Pizza. I guess the guy I really miss is, the canned ham guy, You don't see that much anymore.
Working with these guys, they're, great pals, and their collaborative effort, and it's their camaraderie, the laughter. But I think if you break it down into just one thing that I missed the most, it would definitely be the money. I mean,
A lot of money.
Freakazoid was really fun. It was sort of like, bringing back Animaniacs, because that was like a couple years later, and so it was sort of like a reunion thing, just doing it that year.
I miss just waking up and going to a place where there were a bunch of other people wanting to do the same thing, which is just, let's watch The Crawling Eye, let's watch Amadeus, or walking with John and having John talk about a new character he was thinking about called Tintintorino, the Naughty Cabana Boy, whose catchphrase would be, "I have soiled myself." And then to have the next day, John go, "That guy's Hero Boy." And just those little fun moments where you're just, you're just having a great time.
I must succeed!
I must succeed! We interrupt this DVD for an important message.
to the fans, I love you. I love you.
This book, I think I really want you to get it. This is number 44 of the Hardy Boys. It's The Haunted Fort. And, you know, like, I like a lot of the Hardy Boys, but what's so fun about this one is Chet Morton's in it. And you know how in some of the Hardy Boys, they can get a little serious and dark, but with Chet, it always gets really, really, really silly. But still, there's a lot of spooky stuff in there.
Get married. Don't rob an armored car.
So it's number 44, it's The Haunted Fort, and here's Joe pointing at probably a ghost. I'm gonna tell you if it is a ghost or anything, but there's gold involved.
Have children. And don't lose your inner Hugbees.
Hugbees!
Hold on here, I just have to...
Stay in school, keep getting student loans, and I guess by now everybody's about 50 years old, so maybe you should get out of school.
And before I go, I'd just like to leave you with a few words to think about during the coming years. You know, the world of imagination is infinite and eternal, whereas the world of generation or vegetation is finite and temporal. There exist in that eternal world the permanent realities of everything which we see reflected in this vegetable glass of nature. And though the oak dies as well as the lettuce, their eternal image and individuality lives on through their seeds. And in the imaginative image, it also lives on through the seeds of contemplation. So may it be with Freakazoid. Goodbye and good luck.